Dust motes dance in the single, narrow beam of a flashlight, illuminating forgotten memories. Emma shuffles through boxes, the cardboard soft with age, each one neatly labeled. Marks things, her hands, hesitant at first, grow bolder as she pushes aside old clothes and stacks of books. That's when she sees it. A small leather-bound diary, its cover worn smooth in places. It feels intensely personal, a secret she was never meant to find. She runs a thumb over the cover, her heart thumping against her ribs. Taking a shallow breath, she opens it. The first page is a scrawl of desperate handwriting. I don't have much time. If anyone finds this, please understand. Emma's breath hitches, her fingers trembling slightly, flip through the pages, a blur of familiar script, until she reaches the very end, the last entry. It reads, "Today is the day. The old man won't." The sentence hangs there unfinished, a silent scream on the page. Emma slams the diary shut, the sound echoing in the dusty silence of the attic, and the world goes black. The next morning, sunlight streams into the kitchen, painting everything in a veneer of normalcy that feels utterly wrong. Her father, Frank, stands at the counter, calmly pouring coffee, as if it's just another Tuesday. He's always been a man of routine, of control. Emma enters the room, pale and sleepless, the diary clutched in her hand like a talisman. "Did Mark ever keep journals?" she asks, her voice tight. Frank doesn't even look up from his task. "He was dramatic," he says, his tone dismissive. "Wrote all sorts of nonsense." Emma watches him, studying the rigid set of his shoulders. "Did you read 'em?" She presses. Finally, he turns to face her, his eyes cold and unreadable. "Why would I?" The question hangs in the air between them. He turns back to the coffee pot, pouring, but his hand is unsteady. The dark liquid fills the cup, crests the rim, and spills over, staining the clean white counter. Later, in her bedroom, Emma loses herself in the diary. Mark's voice, a memory she's clung to for months, seems to echo from the pages. Frank smiles in public. One entry reads, "Counts everything in private." He doesn't like that, I know. She turns the page, her fingers tracing the words. "Emma thinks I'm paranoid. I hope I am." Tears well in her eyes, blurring the ink. She keeps reading, flipping through days and weeks of growing anxiety, until she reaches a page with a single date circled in thick red ink. It's the day Mark died. The day the police said his car spun out on a wet road. The day her world ended. But the words on this page don't speak of an accident, they speak of a plan, of fear. That night, a storm rages outside, mirroring the one inside her. Emma finds Frank in the living room, the diary held tight in her hand. "He was afraid of you," she says, her voice shaking but firm. Frank scoffs, a sound full of condescending pity. "He was unstable, Emma." Then, "Why did he write this?" she challenges, holding up the diary. For the first time, she sees a crack in his composure. His jaw tightens, just for a second, but it's there. "You're grieving," he says, his voice softening into a manipulative purr. "Don't invent monsters where there are none." Just as he speaks, thunder cracks violently overhead, as if the very sky is rejecting his lie. Police. The police station is sterile, impersonal. Emma sits across from a man named Detective Ruiz. He has a calm, observant face that gives nothing away. She slides the worn leather diary across the table. "My husband didn't die by accident," she says, the words feeling heavy and real. Ruiz picks it up, his expression neutral. He flips through the pages, his eyes scanning the entries until he reaches the final, damning one. He reads it silently. "Free. The old man won't." He looks up at her, a question in his eyes. "Won't what?" Emma swallows the lump in her throat. "Let him live." We're back in the attic, but it's not the present. This is a memory, a flashback. Mark is writing hurriedly, frantically, in the diary. His voice narrates his thoughts. "If I'm wrong, I'll burn this." If I'm right, below him, he hears footsteps. Heavy, deliberate. They're coming up the stairs. He quickly shoves the diary under a loose floorboard, his heart pounding. The footsteps stop just outside the attic door. A dark shadow appears in the crack underneath it, blocking the light. The doorknob begins to turn. Back in the present, Detective Ruiz is in Frank's garage, running a gloved hand over the fender of his pristine sedan. Emma watches from the doorway. We found some old damage under the new paint job, Ruiz says, not looking at her. It's inconsistent with your father's service records. He straightens up. Your father reported that Mark borrowed this car the night of the accident. Emma shakes her head slowly. Mark hated driving it. He said it felt too heavy, that the brakes were soft. A voice from behind them makes them both jump. Find what you're looking for, detective. Frank is standing there, a shadow in the dim garage light, his expression unreadable. Ruiz meets his gaze. Still looking, the detective replies calmly. Dinner is a war fought in silence. The clinking of silverware is the only sound. The air is thick with unspoken accusations. Finally, Frank sets his fork down with a sharp clack. You should stop digging, Emma, he says, his voice a low warning. For your own good. Emma looks him dead in the eye, her own fork poised in mid-air. Finish the sentence, she says. Frank freezes, a flicker of confusion on his face. What sentence? She places the diary on the table between them, flipping it open to the last page. The old man won't. Frank's composure finally shatters. He slams his fist on the table, his face contorted with rage. Let him take what I built. The shout hangs in the dead silence that follows. He's breathing heavily, his eyes wide as he realizes what he's just confessed. At that exact moment, there's a loud, authoritative knock at the front door. Detective Ruiz stands on the doorstep, flanked by two uniformed officers. Frank Miller, he says, his voice steady and clear. You're under arrest for the murder of Mark Evans. Frank's furious gaze leaves the detective and lands on Emma. His expression curdles into one of pure betrayal. I did it for you, he whispers, a pathetic attempt at justification. To protect what's ours. Emma says nothing. Her silence is his answer. From the porch, Emma watches as they lead her father away in handcuffs. The red and blue lights of the police car flash across her face, but her expression is blank. She is alone, finally, and truly alone. She opens the diary one last time, flipping to the very end. Beneath the unfinished sentence, she now sees a small, final line she'd missed in her grief and anger. In Mark's familiar handwriting, it says, "If you're reading this, Emma, trust yourself." A single tear rolls down her cheek. She closes the diary, holding it tight. The future is uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it is hers. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.